Tonight on Somerville Neighborhood News, a conference about Somerville airplane noise pollution, the fall ResiStat meetings discuss developments in the community, opioid fatalities continue to rise in Massachusetts, Prospect Hill Tower is now open for guided tours, and we check in with a local community leader at the Center for Teen Empowerment. All that and more coming up on Somerville Neighborhood News. Hello and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. I'm Joe Lynch. Today is Tuesday, November 8th, 2016, Election Day. The City of Somerville has concluded its fall ResiStat meetings. The ResiStat program brings together Somerville residents with city officials to discuss relevant ongoing and future projects. Reporter Jenny Fong was at the final ResiStat meeting for 2016 and brings us this report.
The Argenziano School cafeteria was particularly lively this past Thursday night, where residents of Ward 2 gathered for the final fall ResiStat meeting. Brad Rawson, head of Transportation and Infrastructure, discussed current and upcoming roadwork projects.
We are working with MassDOT, who is managing the contractor, and they are going day by day and week by week to get as much work done as possible and make sure that Beacon Street is safe, is accessible, and is buttoned up to every user of the roadway system throughout the winter here.
The next meeting is a really appropriate and fair expectation that it will be temporarily patched up and it will not be dirt, it will not be gravel, because we're going to be finishing up their work probably realistically November 20th, 25th. So Thanksgiving is the target. It is in everybody's mind.
Ward 2, as she often says, is at this really unique moment where investment, capital investment that we have been fighting for in this community with our 100-year-old infrastructure is now happening.
Mayor Curtatone stressed the importance of building a new Somerville High School, both in terms of infrastructure and financing.
Somerville is experiencing a great investment wave now, which is important. The new school is projected to cost somewhere between $257 million. That's expensive. The cost of building these schools has gone up exponentially. Building permits are one-time revenue, so you don't build a budget on that, but you use that to create stabilization funds to beef them up, pay-as-you-go capital expenses, stabilization funds to mitigate debt. This is one community. The next generation deserves it. We do need a high school. If we lose accreditation, and this is serious, that diploma is not worth the paper it's printed on. All our homes are worth more money, we pay more taxes as a consequence. If you want to justify that investment, it's the strength and weakness of our school system. Now the high school, and the school system overall, is incredible innovation going on. High school is ranked in the 90th percentile. But to really go farther and really want to go beyond, we need the building.
The mayor also mentioned the new lowered speed limit of 25 miles an hour, as statistics show that the Greater Boston area is the 9th most congested region in the U.S. The new speed limit will go into effect on November the 7th.
On Bailey Street, dashed out from between two cars, the driver never saw him. Thankfully, he was traveling 20 miles per hour less. The police investigated. The boy survived.
Chief of Police David Fallon talked about more community connection and the process of getting higher standard training to further enhance relations with a diverse community.
If we're separate from the community, the police department, then nobody benefits from that. And we're not the police department can't solve any issues in the community. But if we work collaboratively with the community and we're part of the community, there's really no problem that we can't solve. And that's our message from the command staff every day to our rank and file officers. The kind of dialogue I think is very important between the police and the youth in the community. Our policies and procedures now are on our website. So we look for your input. The mayor's really a mandate this year from the mayor's office. There's been a lot of talk in policing with my command staff about transparency.
Christine Andrews, the Solarize Somerville Program Director, presented new information about the program, most notably a deadline extension to November 23rd for signing up.
I learned something new in every ward meeting. I learned that crime is down, that I learned a little bit more background on why we need to build a new high school, be here to ask questions and get their responses in person. We really appreciate the back and forth.
For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Jenny Fang.
As mentioned in the ResiStat meeting, the Solarize Somerville Solar Panel Discount Program has been extended. Site visits are now offered through November 23rd and participants have until December 16th to decide if they would like to go solar. For more information on the Solarize Somerville program or to schedule an assessment, visit www.somervillema.gov/sustainaville/solarize or dial 311 and ask for the Sustainability Office. Somerville residents have heard and felt the impact of increased air traffic over the city for the last decade. Runway realignments and increased traffic at Logan Airport have combined to bring more departing flights across the city. Almost 200 community activists and concerned residents recently attended Airport Impacts 101. The day-long conference featured leading researchers in the areas of aircraft noise and aircraft pollution to increase the public's understanding of what the most recent studies are showing about the health effects of increased exposure to air traffic.
We thought that having a dialogue between the scientists and the community members would start to broaden the community members' footing with regard to airport impacts, how serious some of them might be, the progress that's starting to be made that's pretty impressive in the science world with regard to aviation impact.
In Somerville, we've seen an exponential increase in airport traffic with the reconfiguration of air traffic patterns, and as well as compounded by the increase of airport traffic in general, as Logan Airport has increased its commercial and passenger flight business, and so that those two variables have compounded the impacts over the past decade plus here in our community.
So effectively, the number of jets and sometimes other planes, but almost predominantly jets, coming from Logan tripled that are flying over Somerville. That was noticed immediately. It had been feared before the opening of that runway, and it in fact came to pass.
When we look at the relationship between sound and health, we have to think about sound as being an experience. And it is that experience that brings about any negative health. So while I feel like, we capture the sound pressure level, there are some things that we fail to capture that I think are important in modifying and mediating the negative health effects. So in particular, I feel like there's a pathway, and I feel like we need to capture that whole experience before we can actually talk about the relationship between sound and health. In my dissertation work, I am specifically interested in the frequency component of sound, because we know that we have the sound level, but sound feels different. Different sounds actually feel different. And I'm very interested in that feeling because I'm very interested in the experience of sound.
Every morning, every day, even in the late evenings, the amount of air traffic is just mind-blowing that comes over our community, over the Mystic River and our surrounding communities, and the consequential noise as a result of the thrust of the planes taking off from Logan, can be felt firsthand. You can actually feel your house shaking in many cases, and that has a negative impact on our ability to enjoy, really feel and absorb the quiet enjoyment of our homes with our families, with our neighbors. So we experience that every day here as a family here in Somerville.
It's not as though people are perfectly able to hear sounds of all frequencies equally well, and it's even more complicated than that, because even though you can't hear the low frequencies, your house can, and it can rattle and wiggle and create nonlinear effects that you think you might hear an airplane going by, but your window just feels like rattling anyway.
There's a very high subjective difference in people on the ground, and so the airport noise impacts, as far as annoyance, are felt very much further from the airport than you might imagine. At the same time, air pollution is known to be a serious driver of public health outcomes, especially cardiovascular outcomes, which are about 40% of all mortality. They're the largest single category of health impact generally. They're directly connected to air pollution, and increasingly people are looking at cardiovascular outcomes for noise pollution as well.
what can noise do to you sort of immediately? And there are things up there like sleep disturbance, like annoyance, things that can contribute to stress. And I think everyone probably finds that pretty intuitive. You're exposed to noise, it wakes you up in the middle of the night, that is not a good thing, you get stressed out, you get annoyed. So that's, I think, a pretty well established set of literature and pretty intuitive. The bottom half is a whole separate set of literature that's out there, different researchers, different investigators saying, if you are more stressed out, if you have disturbed sleep, these things can contribute to high blood pressure or hypertension, and this puts you on the pathway to cardiovascular effects.
Noise is the most concentrated of these three impacts. It's the one that's happening at the localist of scales. So when we divide that by the number of people who are bearing that cost, the per person cost of noise can exceed the costs of air quality and climate.
We cannot just say nothing over my city, nothing over my town. We have to play a very critical role and collaborative role in determining how that burden gets distributed.
Every time you change the runway patterns, there is a new population affected, and it's the new population from whom the largest number of complaints come. So there becomes a question of, are we going to try to figure out how to distribute the noise most equitably, or do we not want to introduce new people to the noise? And those things have to be decided in a regional conversation.
To report aircraft noise, visit Massport online or call the Massport Noise Complaint Line at 617-561-3333 between 7 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. on business days. In response to the rising opioid fatalities in Massachusetts, Somerville Community Access Television, in partnership with Cambridge Health Alliance and the Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery, produced the following video. This video seeks to raise awareness of opioid and substance abuse, improve access to treatment, and share resources for maintaining sobriety.
Today, 4 more Massachusetts residents will die of overdoses, opioid overdoses. Over 80% of people that end up with a needle in their arm with heroin start with legally prescribed opioids. And there's only 2 things that happen with addiction, especially opioid addiction. Treatment, ongoing treatment, or death. And more people will die this year from opioid overdoses than car accidents.
The word that I have trouble getting out is hopelessness. These kids don't have any hope. They're trapped. They're trapped by their addictions.
Those studies that look at adverse early childhood experiences and long-term mental and physical health, one of the adverse childhood experiences that is clearly associated with a poor outcome is having a parent or guardian with a significant substance problem.
So working with organizations like the Cambridge Health Alliance is a step in the right direction, and sometimes through that step you can enter a space where you can find hope for these kids.
Stigma is, I think it really hinders a lot of people from getting help, from saying that they even have an addiction.
In 2014, the last year we passed a gun bill, I got to know a chief of police from Gloucester, where I spent a lot of time, and he was very helpful in our getting our gun bill passed. And I had said to him, if there's anything you ever need, let me know. And then last spring, he announced that starting on June 1st, anyone with the disease of addiction could come into the Gloucester Police Department, not be shamed, not be judged, and be helped into treatment, not jail. And he took this very bold stance for a police chief to say this is a disease, not a crime. It needs treatment, not jail. And in the absence of treatment, of ways into treatment, he was going to provide that through the Gloucester Police Department. So since June 1st, 2015, over 400 people have come into the Gloucester Police Department, and all are in treatment. Over 100 police departments across the country have partnered with us. Over 200 treatment centers have partnered with us, providing beds for treatment with or without insurance, scholarships if people didn't have the right kind of insurance, and we have another 100 police departments lining up. We've worked with Governor Baker and passed comprehensive opioid addiction and treatment legislation, and we're working with the U.S. Congress because, frankly, whether you're Mitch McConnell from Lexington, Kentucky, or Ed Markey from Lexington, Mass., your constituents have the same problems. This disease knows no boundaries.
The most important thing for me is humility and being willing to surrender and practicing that in my life. I have to remain open-minded and listen to what different people are saying. And those are some of the things that I've heard over the years that I always fought them. I always thought I could trust my own thinking and I knew what was best. And that doesn't mean I'm not intellectually competent to make decisions in life. It just means that I don't have all the answers. And I had to arrive at a place where I was willing to take some advice from other people. And from being around 12-step recovery for years and years and years and constantly hearing them say, you have to do all this stuff, I would go to these meetings and hear them say all that, and then I would say, well, I'll do this, this, and this. And that will work for me because I'm different than everyone else. And I'll figure out the rest. And I would go back and I would use. And so through trial and error, I finally said, you know what, I gotta just try this. I gotta listen to what they're saying. But it wasn't just a 12-step program either. It was going into therapy. That's why, I mentioned that, because I knew I needed to sort through some of that stuff. The loss of my father, active addiction in the home, multiple losses of friends and family members throughout the years that I'd never even processed.
So for me, recovery is, I've changed a lot. I've changed my behaviors. I don't use drugs or alcohol in any form. So, there's some people who are on the harm reduction side. I'm completely abstinent from all drugs and alcohol. And it wasn't until somebody said to me that exactly what you said, you don't look like a drug addict. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm not a drug addict. I am a mother. I am, employable. I started feeling like this doesn't have to be my whole life.
This isn't me.
This isn't me.
Right.
And it was like a spiritual awakening. And
it's like a revelation.
It was, because I had kind of resigned, like, I'm just always gonna be this. I'm always gonna be an addict. I'm always gonna it's gonna just get worse. And it didn't have to be, and I started waking up, and I just haven't stopped since.
We need programs that can have the sustainability to really work long-term and have patients meeting with outpatient recovery coaches and therapists and counselors on a twice, 3-time weekly basis for weeks, months, years as needed.
What keeps you in recovery? What would you tell her?
My children.
Your children. Simple answer.
Yeah, my children.
How many do you have?
I have 3 children.
Oh, lucky kids.
Yeah, they're awesome. They keep me on my toes. My daughter's 11. I have a son who's 9, and then I have a 7-year-old.
And you have your hands full.
I do. But I came into recovery for myself, but they have really, and my mother too, they are my inspiration. They're why I work hard, they're why I want to go back to school, and why I stay in recovery.
We need to stop the shaming. We need to address this crisis, this epidemic, as what it is. It's a chronic disease with no cure that needs to be treated long term. And once we do that, we'll get a handle on the 47,000 overdose deaths a year.
For more information, please visit the Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery website at www.moar-recovery.org. Have you ever imagined the view from the top of Prospect Hill Tower? Well, imagine no more. Following renovations made possible by funding through the Community Preservation Act, residents are invited to take guided tours to the top on select dates.
Took control of this area. There was then in
Prospect Hill Tower, perhaps one of the most recognizable landmarks in Somerville, has opened up to the public with docent-led tours this fall.
And Chelsea, there was a British.
This was preceded by a $500,000 renovation funded by the Community Preservation Act that concluded in December 2015. This is the first of several historic restoration projects to be completed in Somerville under the Act since it was passed in November 2012.
Happened to be available, and in the particular case, there was a battle fought at Chelsea Creek.
The Prospect Hill Tower renovations included replacing the upper-level floor slabs, resetting the parapet stones, restoring the door and ornamental iron stairs, repointing the facade, and repairing the exterior stairwell. Since the rehabilitation, the Historic Preservation Commission has been hosting docent-guided tours to the top, allowing for both residents and history buffs to admire the view while learning about the significance of the tower.
But I'm actually, what I wanted to do is kind of let you know there's an interesting area that a lot of history has transpired from this hill. The development of the community and the different groups that come in here is kind of the heritage that we celebrate after Somerville became a city in 1872. But I'd like to just talk.
The tower was constructed in 1903 to honor the troops who camped atop the hill during both the Revolutionary War and Civil War. In 1985, it was designated as a local historic district. Beyond the tours, the inside and top of the tower will remain closed until next spring. For Somerville Neighborhood News, this is Peter Levine.
This area had been settled about 150 years, pretty well settled.
There is one more guided tour of the tower this coming Saturday, November 12th, from noon to 2 p.m. For more information, check out the City of Somerville website. Scout Somerville Magazine and Somerville Community Access Television have joined forces to produce a new series dubbed Scout TV. The series aims to showcase the people, places, and things that make Somerville a vibrant and diverse community. In Scout TV's first piece, the spotlight is on Sassy Estany, the program coordinator for the Center for Teen Empowerment.
So my name is Sassy Estany. I work for Teen Empowerment as a program coordinator. And the work that we do at Teen Empowerment is we work with youth ages 14 to 21, and we talk about the different issues that they face in the city of Somerville. But they organize events by themselves that talk about the issues that they are facing. So whether it be bullying, social media, relationships, police and youth relationships, whatever it may be, we throw some type of event or do some type of meeting or dialogue or conference and get the people in the room that need to be there so that you can start having conversations and start really bridging the gap between adults and youth. Through doing that, we also make them leaders. You know, we give them leadership skills so they learn how to throw events themselves. They learn how to be respectful. They learn how to speak out, use their voice, learn how to really just kind of accept who they are. And with that, accepting who they are, they learn more about themselves. Like they learn that they can sing and they can dance, they can rap, they can do spoken word, they can talk in front of people, they can make a difference, they can make a change. I started working here because of my sister and my brother. They both worked in this program. and being a youth that went through the program themselves really shows how this program works, that it actually isn't just a false thing that's just like, okay, like we help youth and we care about them. It's like, no, it shows through our actions, through what we do, that we really do care about youth. We really do build leaders in this program. My vision for Somerville is for it to be the most welcoming place possible, that we accept all shades and colors, people are treated equally. So we try to get as many people as possible involved in everything that we do, because we don't want anyone to be left out. But we especially stress that the youth cannot be left out, because we can't start having conversations about, oh, well, these youth, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, how do you know that if you're not talking to them? So we do open mics every month of the school year. And this past year, we focused a lot on mental health, because that was one of our top issues. And so every open mic that we had some sort of theme revolving around mental health. And if it didn't, people just came and expressed themselves regardless. So at these open mics, we're like, okay, maybe the theme this time is be yourself or something. And so people would come and they would write a piece about being themselves, or a piece about just who they are as a person. And after that event would happen, a lot of these youth would come back and be like, all right, I kind of want to work here, or I want to volunteer here, or I just want to be able to have another open mic. Can we have another one? I have witnessed a lot here, but I will say witnessing the youth come out of the program has to be the most benefiting part for me, because on our last day of group, with whatever group we have a whole back-to-back feedback. So we write all their names on top of a piece of paper, and they go around and write positive things about each other on them. So things for good luck for the next school year, or please continue being the person you are, whatever it may be. And so the youth get to see themselves in a different light. I think the most rewarding part for me is really seeing the youth develop into leaders, to see that they got what they needed from the program and that they're ready to go on to something new. It really is the best feeling for me. I can't, knowing the program works, so it's just like, yeah, I can't ask for anything better.
To see more of the Scout TV series, visit the Scout TV webpage or check out the Scout Somerville website at scoutsomerville.com. That's our newscast for tonight. We'll be back on November 22nd at 7 p.m. on Channel 3. Check out all of our news stories at somervillneighborhoodnews.org. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production of Scout TV. We invite you to get involved. Visit our Facebook page, SCATVSNN, to comment. Tweet us at SCATVSNN. Call us at 617-628-8826, or email us at news@scatvsomerville.org. I'm Joe Lynch, wishing you a happy, healthy, and safe autumn season. Thanks for joining us. See you around the neighborhood.